The Backpacker's Silence, a true crime-inspired horror story. I can't remember exactly when I first came across the story. Maybe around 2007. I was scrolling through one of those crime forums, back when the internet still felt like the Wild West. Someone had posted grainy images of old newspaper clippings, crime scene sketches, even a photo of a pair of worn-out hiking boots sitting in the dirt. Nothing about it screamed ghost story or monster, but somehow that made it worse. It wasn't fiction. It was just real enough to stick in your gut. They called it the Backpacker Murders, a name that sounds almost clean, sanitized, like a movie title. But the reality behind it, it's messier, darker, and honestly, I think the story most people know is only half the truth, maybe less. Let me back up. From 1989 to 1993, young backpackers started vanishing along the east coast of Australia, mostly in New South Wales. They were travelers, people hitchhiking, staying in cheap hostels, trying to see the world on next to nothing. A lot of them didn't have fixed plans, and that made it harder for anyone to notice when they disappeared. It's easy to miss one backpacker, even two, but when 7 go missing in a similar stretch of wilderness, and when their remains turn up, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. The first discovery was in 1992. A group of dirt bikers found a skeleton in Belanglo State Forest. That's about 2 hours southwest of Sydney. They weren't looking for anything, just out riding. But one of them spotted something strange sticking out from under a pile of sticks. At first, he thought it was animal bones. Then he saw the jeans, the zipper, a wristwatch still hanging on what was left of an arm. Police came in fast after that. They searched the area, and it didn't take long to find more. Another body, then another, and eventually 7 confirmed victims. Each one had been killed differently. Some had been shot repeatedly. One had been decapitated. Another had their spine severed, possibly while they were still alive. There were signs of torture, restraint, even staging. The weirdest detail? Some of the victims were buried with their hands pointing towards each other, face down, almost arranged. And here's where it starts to feel like a horror movie, but it wasn't. The forest itself, Belanglo, isn't some ancient cursed woodland. It's not a gothic nightmare. It's just remote, dense enough that you can walk 10 minutes off a trail and hear nothing but the wind through the trees. It plays tricks on you, that place. The way the light filters through the canopy. The way everything sounds just a little too quiet. That's where Ivan Milat comes in. He was arrested in 1994 after an incredibly lucky break. A British tourist named Paul Onions had actually escaped from him years earlier, jumped out of a moving car and flagged down another driver. He reported the incident, but it got buried in a sea of missing persons reports. It wasn't until later, when details started lining up, that police put it together. Milat was a construction worker, rugged, skilled with tools, ropes, guns. He had grown up near Belanglo, knew the forest like his own backyard. And when they raided his house, they found weapons, souvenirs, belongings from victims, one of the girl's cameras, another's tent. He never confessed. Not once. Not in trial. Not in prison. Not even on his deathbed. And here's the thing. Most people think the story ends there. Cops got their man. Case closed. Right? I don't think it's that simple. There's always been this theory. A persistent one. That Milat didn't act alone. That there was someone else. Maybe a brother. Maybe a friend. Or maybe someone he met in that forest years ago who shared his appetite. Police found evidence of multiple firearms being used. Some wounds didn't match the guns Milat owned. There were signs that the victims had been moved, dragged distances that would have taken hours to do alone. And yet, the official line was always lone killer. Except there were whispers, even before the arrests. In 1991, before anyone knew the forest held bodies, there were a handful of reports, unofficial ones, of hikers hearing screams at night. One couple, camping just outside the forest boundary, said they woke up to the sound of laughter, a man's voice, then silence, then something brushing the side of their tent. They left before sunrise, never reported it formally, but years later, when the bodies were found, the woman gave an interview. She said it wasn't animal noise, it was human, and it was close. But it's what happened after Milat was locked up that really bothers me. In 2001, two uni students, Sam and Jamie, went out to Belanglo for a weekend project. They were filming a short doco about the backpacker cases. They had read the court transcripts, even managed to get copies of the original police sketches. Their plan was to retrace the hiking paths the victims had used, see how close to the road they were, how easy it would have been to disappear. They weren't thrill seekers, just curious. They brought proper gear, phone, GPS, printed maps. They even checked in with a ranger on the way in. They never came back out. 3 days later, a search party went in. They found the student's car, doors locked. Nothing inside looked disturbed. Then they found their camp, tents neatly zipped up, food still in a cooler. One of the sleeping bags looked slept in, the other was untouched. Then they found a camera. It was damaged but recoverable. Most of the footage was dull. The guys laughing, setting up camp, pointing at trees. But then there's a stretch, late at night, where one of them whispers, "Do you see that?" The camera pans quickly, too shaky to make out much. Just darkness and brush. Then a pause, a breath, and this dragging noise. It sounds like something heavy scraping through leaves. A low grunt. Then one of the students curses quietly. You hear them fumbling. Footsteps. Then nothing but wind. That's where the footage ends. Police never found bodies. Never found blood. Just an abandoned tent and a static-filled memory card. Some say they ran off, faked it. I mean, maybe, but there were no large withdrawals from their accounts. No passport activity. Their families insisted they weren't the kind to vanish. Then, years later, in 2015, a hiker reported seeing something or someone in the forest near dusk. He described it as a man, very still, standing maybe 30 meters off the trail. Didn't move, didn't speak, just stared. Here's the thing, though, he wasn't alone. He said he saw another shape, smaller, sitting maybe, hard to tell in the shadows. When he called out, both figures vanished. And that brings me to something that's haunted me ever since I started looking into this. A Reddit post, long since deleted. It was written by someone claiming to be a forestry worker. Said they'd been assigned to clear fallen trees near Belanglo. They found a small clearing, freshly dug, like someone had started a fire pit, but never finished. And nearby, 3 plastic zip ties hanging from a low branch, just dangling, no explanation. They reported it. Forestry said it was probably from old police activity. The worker wasn't so sure. They never went back. So, what do I believe? Honestly, I think evil leaves an echo, a shape in the dirt, a smell in the wind, maybe even something worse, something that stays. And Belanglo? It's still out there, quiet, waiting. If you ever drive through that part of New South Wales, you'll see the signs. Belanglo State Forest, stay on marked trails. Tourists still go, some even camp, but locals, they know better. They don't go near it after dark. They say if you listen close, sometimes you can hear someone whispering your name in the trees, not shouting, not calling, just whispering, like they already know you're going to follow the wrong path. This is the end of the story, and thanks for listening. You can subscribe, like, and share for more.